Hey folks, we are live now. So we are with the .NET Prof Sandeep sir, and here we have with our HOD of the .NET Hustle series, that's Jayashree. And basically, I myself is a very big newbie to this world of .NET, and Jayashree is probably just learning, but yet she's organizing everything. So she's apparently good enough to be a .NET HOD, and Sandeep bro has been like 15 years in the industry and so on. And if you think of all collectively, you can think about like, okay, 15 years plus some 30 odd days of experience in this entire panel here. So this series is just an humble attempt to just understand what is .NET ecosystem is all about. What is it all about when we are considering everything related to the .NET and all the development that we are supposed to be doing. So Jayashree, over to you, and it's all yours.
Yeah, so hello everyone. I welcome you all to this .NET session. First, let me introduce to our community.
Sure.
Just give me a minute. Yeah, is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, so this is our community website. Like our community is Azure developer community, and it's a strong community which is having so many tech enthusiasts. And here we have 11,000 plus members, which has reached among 100 plus cities, and we have 41 organizers as well as 40 speakers in our community. So in this community, you will get opportunity to learn, network, and upskill your skill set. Also, this is the list of our upcoming events that are going to take place in month of December. And then we have our India's map. Like here, you can see your region, like, and you can join your community according to your region. So you can join from here. We have participating community are partnered with our Azure developer community. And here's a list of the past events that has already taken place by our organizers and speakers. Then we community organizers. This is the list of the community organizers, and even you could also join the as an organizer or as a speaker in our community as well. You just need to apply. Here's a list of speakers. Then our community is powered by Confirm and Microsoft Azure. So that's all about our community. That is Azure Developer Community. Here's the meetup group. Like we have different meetup groups for different regions. So like for Azure Developer Community Jaipur, you can join the meetup group, and you will get all the like event links and everything like that. Like yeah, you can join this by just clicking on the
Jayashree, like
group.
your voice is very
Yeah.
breaking. It's breaking because of your network issue. There's a lot of network issue with your networking. There's a lot of
Okay.
network issue.
Okay. Check.
Sure. I think. Yeah, like perfect. So I think Jayashree has a very bad network, and I think Sandeep, bro, it's 15 plus years of experience that you bring on the table, and you've seen the way in which .NET was there before. Like it was always there in the market. It always gave that ecosystem wala feeling. Like it's a ecosystem. You can't really say it's a really big operating system on its own or runtime or else anything. It's an ecosystem which has .NET Core, .NET frameworks, Mavi, Xamarin, whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's a .NET framework. So, what is it all about when we speak about .NET? Your experience in working with .NET, and also how did companies migrate from one version to the other? Because of course, it's still the C sharp, but the functionalities differ because .NET has all the functionalities in it. Everything is packed inside, and so on. So, what is it all about when we talk about .NET?
Yeah, sure. Is my audio clear?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So as you said, .NET is an ecosystem. That's perfect term to bring with .NET. Because .NET brings so many things with it. Like there are several languages that we can have on top of .NET. Like if we take like today's sessions, we are having session on C Sharp, right? But together, like C Sharp is cannot be termed as a .NET. C Sharp is a language that will be using on top of .NET. So .NET is basically an ecosystem, as you said, but it is a set of compiler, or basically compiler and libraries and runtime and execution environment that totally put together along with the C Sharp or any other language like F Sharp. And with this, we can create so many applications. Like we can currently they are having ecosystem with say web applications, mobile applications, desktop applications, and maybe hybrid applications, so cloud-based applications. Now cloud support is also available with .NET Core, as you said. So this is the ecosystem of .NET, and yeah, I've seen the evolution of .NET from like say the very beginning from 1.1 version to till date. And companies do migrate with the need of some features or maybe from the client's need. Suppose you have some X client and they want like their system to be migrated to new .NET in case they want some features to be exploited, used, or they want maybe some like some security features or some enhanced development features that are available as a part of new .NET framework. So that's where the migration happens. And during migrations, or the developers has also has to learn the new things and implement. And basically, there is a roadmap that is defined when we migrate from one version to another. We have to take care of like things like .NET code and everything, and think about production environment, line environment. So it's a long journey basically when we migrate from one version to another. Also, basically, a support is available. Obviously, .NET has its own. We can say the old version support is also provided, but as we are going to use new features of a .NET, so we have to think about our old code and if we are going to migrate it into some new features or under new umbrella of .NET system. So that is also planned under the roadmap for migration. So this is overall what I can say about your question.
And also, how are these frameworks really much more effective today? Because Mavi, Xamarin, Blazor, whatnot, .NET brings in whole set of frameworks. There is third-party frameworks. There is open source frameworks. There is always an inbuilt functionality which is always there with the .NET. And .NET has something which is some core features which really is required for all the different deployment targets. Like it's like you have 10 different targets, and 10 different targets have a different requirement, but one language or one framework does all the work. And what is it all about when we talk about something like that?
Yeah, the .NET is bringing several things like as you said, Blazor, Razor. So these things are just to make sure that developer gets everything under the umbrella of .NET. Because say if you are a mobile developer and you want to, because previously there was no like when the Android came, there was a WPF application, WPF template was available for desktop, but then .NET came up with the Xamarin, as you said. So that's something a mobile developer can come and develop applications under .NET, right?
Yeah, Xamarin
Yeah.
was bought by Microsoft, and it was actually a biggest move that they ever did, because to .NET ecosystem, I think to the fraternity of the .NET devs, I think it really changed the way in which Xamarin was being pursued. Xamarin was no longer the way in which we are thinking, right? It's like Win forms are already available, Windows forms, like in the
Yeah.
.NET, and Win forms are there. Like you just have to just leverage what the tech is available and what to be done over a course of time. I think Jayashree is back with her new network, so
Yeah.
we'll make sure that her session goes on. And please do
Sure.
present the screen so that we can just get the
Yeah,
party
yeah, sure.
started. And we were missing the HOD of the .NET hustle. So where was she?
Yeah, I hope my screen is visible.
Yeah, yeah, it's visible.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. So just let's start with the .NET hustle. So, Before starting, let me introduce myself. So, I'm Jaishri Gupta, and I'm an organizer at Azure Developer Community. I'm also a Beta Microsoft Learned Student Ambassador, as well as I'm a chapter lead at Girl Script Jaipur. And here's my LinkedIn ID. You can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Next, we have Sandeep Horade sir with us. He's a .NET professor and having an experience of 15 plus years in .NET field. And he's also an organizer at Azure Developer Community. And he's currently working as a senior software developer at eClerks. And here's the LinkedIn ID to connect with the Sandeep sir, so you can connect with him as well. Next, we have Vishwas Narayan with us. He's a junior .NET professor, and he's also an organizer at Azure Developer Community, and he's a founder at Computer Architecture Club, and he's also a ex chapter lead at Google Crowdsource. And here's the LinkedIn ID. You can connect with him as well. So let's start with our session on C Sharp. So let me give you a quick overview of C Sharp. So basically, C Sharp is a very modern language, and it's an object-oriented programming language. And one more thing about C Sharp is that it is very easy to learn C Sharp. And C Sharp is basically developed by Microsoft, and it was approved by ECMA and ISO, and it was developed during the development of the .NET framework, and it was developed for common language infrastructures, and it is consist of the executable codes and runtime environment. Next, these are the list of the strong features of C Sharp, and except these, we have many more features for C Sharp. But these are some like very important features. Like we have assembly versioning with C Sharp, we have easy to use generics, we have standard library, simple multi-threading, and many more things with C Sharp. Then programming in C Sharp. So basically, you can have a C Sharp program with an extension of .cs. And for programming in C Sharp, you need a .NET framework pre-installed in your system. Only then you will be able to run your programs of the C Sharp with .cs extension. After compiling your program on a compiler, C Sharp compiler, your program file will get converted into a executable file with an extension of .exe or .dll. Then you can run your code with the help of .NET framework. Okay, so like what we need to program in C Sharp. So basically, you need two things. One is your text editor, in which you need to write the source code of the C Sharp, where you can edit your code as well, and you just need to save your code there. Then for like compiling and executing, you need .NET framework. Okay, so that's very important that you should have .NET framework. Otherwise, your C Sharp program will not work. Then .NET framework is pre-installed in your system if you are using a latest version of the Windows. But if you are using an old version, then you have to download it from the Microsoft website. Like as you can see here, then you can download it from this website. And it is really highly recommended to install the latest version of the .NET framework from the website of the Microsoft. Then about text editor. So text editor is the place, like a platform where you can write your source code and you can save it there. So for text editor, you can use Notepad, but it is quite inconvenient to use like Notepad. So you can use a Notepad plus plus or PS Pad. And here are the links like from where you can download these platforms or editor text editors. Then compilation and execution of the C Sharp programs. So basically, for a complete working C Sharp program, you need to follow the 4 steps. Step 1 is just create your file. Like for example, I have taken the name hello C Sharp.cs. Okay, so .cs is the extension of your source code for the C Sharp program. Then you need to write your code in this file, and you just need to save it. Then you need to compile your .cs extension file, and it will get compiled by the compiler into an executable file with an extension of .exe. And then you can execute this .exe file to get the final desired results. This can be done with the help of the .NET framework. So that's all about the introduction about C Sharp program. Now let's do some hands-on. So I would like Vishwas to please go ahead and show them some hands-on work.
Yeah, before going to the work about the hands-on, like I think probably Sandeep has worked a lot regarding the text editors, right? It's not like VS Code works fine here. It's not VS Studio, like Visual Studio works fine here. Also, is it another R sharper? Like there is an JetBrains community which is coming up with huge set of demand for .NET framework itself. So what do you feel about the text editors that these days? Because a lot of times when we think of text editor, it becomes the biggest integral part because ML.NET requires Visual Studio exclusively because there is already some set of builders, there is already a set of boilerplate codes which are already available. Like in .NET earlier, once Scott Hanselman had told like, I'd missed a semicolon and I spent 3 hours searching where the semicolon was, and that was the text editor era. Like today we have, uh, that was Notepad actually. I think Notepad plus plus probably he might have used it. But what was it all about when we are talking about the text editors today?
Yeah, so it was like when I worked in past and currently. So most of the time, like enterprises use Visual Studio as editor for development or ID, we can say, integrated development environment. But there are cases like there are several other IDs also available in market, as you said. There are several like Atom, you must have heard of. Yeah, so that also we can use with for development purpose. So it's every developer's choice. But whatever Microsoft provides, like ID, like recently in like past few years back, Microsoft has started community editions for IDs, which is freely available for developers or anyone who want to use that without paying anything, because it's open source and freely available. It's community edition, so that is very easy to adapt. And as what you said, like, if you miss a semicolon and you spend 3 hours, so that will not happen with this kind of IDs. Even VS Code is, yeah, even VS Code is too much smarter. Like if we go through the features of VS Code, and it's very much efficient, or we can very you can use it very much efficiently and productively to improve our productivity and work hours. And it provides so many features. Like nowadays, the editors are evolved so much, which are provided by the Microsoft, like VS Code, or even we can take latest release of VS 22 to 2022, right? So that is much more evolved, and they have added so many features for debugging, or to get a view of a call stack, or to maybe you can go like beyond the debugging of code. You can go inside the assembly also to debug if you want to go to that much of level. So yeah, so the overall journey of IDs is too much evolved.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, folks. So let's just go on with the session here. So I'll share my Edge window, and as you guys can see, this will be the repository which we'll be talking in the future. So in the future, I think my voice is visible, my voice is heard proper, and I think my
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Siri.
loud and clear.
Yeah, yeah. So it contains everything. So it's very simple. It comes in a .com, and as soon as you press the dot here, it goes to VS Dev. So VS Code .dev is something which we have as an online IDE. Now it's available. And the worst part about that is it's not yet supporting many packages there. Like you can have a lot of extensions being added, but the problem with that is, I'll show you how to do .NET Interactive. So this is what we'll be using as a kind of an IDE for us. Like it's a kind of an extension inside the VS Code, and this is not available right now. So if you think of all these kind of applications when we are talking about today, it's not available directly for us. So it's just github.dev for the same URL of the this one. What I'm talking about is this GitHub repository. Just make sure that you see this repository, and instead of .com, just add a .dev, and everything will be in the VS Code online IDE as well. So let me just go and share my entire screen now so that you guys can be having an perspective towards everything that we are talking around. And whatnot. So yes, so let me just go to my CLI tool. So it's very simple. When we think of all these different kinds of application, we just go say, hey, what are we doing? So I think probably this is the best part about .NET. So let me just create a new directory because it comes with an entire different set of file system. Before we just see what are all the commands and what is it all about when we are initializing a .NET interpreter or else any sort of an framework to be running on your entire ecosystem, right, of this OS. It runs on Linux, Windows, Mac, everything. So it's all supported there. So let me just do a new to. So mkdir new to cd new to. So .NET is an amazing command. So if you just type in there, you should be having these kind of commands. If it's not, it says that command not detected and so on. So where to install that? And it's a very simple thing here. So I'll be explaining .NET architecture as well. So let's just go to the .NET install, and you can look at all these applications. The fun fact about all these kind of things is like, you get a chance to really understand, okay, all .NET downloads, and you also get to work with some sort of an application like this. Earlier, when I used to see some sort of an .NET application, it never used to pop up with these many options. Today we have ARM 32, ARM 64, Alpine version, so on, like whatnot. There is an extensive amount of infrastructure which has been developed for V, like M1 core from the Mac platform, and Windows has its own ARM as well as x64 and x86. So it's 32-bit, 64-bit, and all .NET installs and downloads. And of course, there is binaries, and there is always an SDK, which is always there for you. So let's just grab my whiteboard. I hope I'm not overloading my things up here. So let's just clear off some. So I need this .NET architecture because I need to explain some more things here. So that command is a fancy set of command which we will always be writing, but there is always that one thought about, like, okay, we have an ecosystem of engineers here. We have a set of rules that is already being defined. Something like case specific language. There is something called as Hebrew casing, kebab casing. Oh, this is too big. I think let me just go for the blue. So let me just do that. So case sensitive as well as specific. So there is always a chance that you can understand, like there is something like Hebrew, Alaska, and kebab. Right? It's like very small kind of a casing. So it's basically this. It's like something like console dot print line or something like display line. Every function. Everything is like every beginning after any sort of an ending of any statements will always be a cap. Like it can be like print line or anything. Like it's some sort of an casing which is always being maintained. And if you think of .NET, it has .NET Core, ASP.NET, and there is even a lot bigger infrastructure that is Xamarin. To be very frank, Xamarin was a company on its own, and it now compiles back to something called as a .NET framework. Oh, sorry for that. So there is always that one framework which is always there. So it all compiles back to this. So you can use Xamarin for mobile, and you can still use ASP.NET Core for progressive web apps, PWA. So progressive web apps, that makes the word. And .NET can be used for something like, okay, how do you build your first microservice? So .NET Core, .NET frameworks are always used. So it's something like, okay, I have a microservice. So let me just build using and something known as an ecosystem, which has already been developed from the .NET folks from the Microsoft. So this is what we talk about. So when you think of a runtime like this, so I think this has to be zoomed a little bit. I think my screen is visible, right? This part.
Yeah, yeah, it's visible.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So it's basically all set of VB.NET, C Sharp, JavaScript.NET, and more .NET languages like F Sharp is there. So yeah, and even in the .NET Interactive Notebook and also in the IPYNB notebook, we'll make sure that we'll show you how the Nugget packages are there. It's something like there is an C Sharp which is always doing a compiler kind of a version there. Like it's like okay, C Sharp was actually Visual J++. So and some folks were like, nah, nah, you can't use what evolved as oak, right? What evolved as oak. Then it was told, okay, let's just name something which comes with a coffee, and that was named as Java. And it's essentially Java, by the way. Your C sharp is essentially Java. And if you think of some frameworks like Spring Boot, and your C sharp frameworks, they all have similarities. Like they all have a same set of file system. There is always a controller which is running it. There's always a way in which every aspect of this C sharp development, everything goes behind. So what is it all about? So on the higher hand, you have something called as VB.NET, C sharp, F sharp, but all right. So, and later on, you have a layer which says, okay, let the languages hit on me, but I'm going to compile as something sort as a DLL and an EXE. And this is what I'll show you even right now. So let's just go to that. And the architecture still remains the same. So it's a common language runtime, which is always about like, okay, there is always an abstraction that goes behind every languages. So there's one language here which is an higher order, so everything has to be converted to a machine code, which is something like an X code, something like your CPU is dumb enough to be dumb, something like, I'll show you how. It's like ones and zeros is the digital language, and it's a binary stuff which is always getting inside the decoder and encoders and encoders. And now all these encoded languages will now convert into a hex code. And this is what is the love for your CPU. Your CPU loves hex code and it doesn't understand binary, it doesn't understand C program, anything. So there is always an abstraction towards that, but .NET has its own way of understanding, okay, there is all set of languages which are coming up. So let's just compile it as one DLL exe. That's what it keeps running, and everything will be sorted here. So .NET framework and class libraries are they always there. It's always like something like common language runtime is always an executive part of your .NET framework. So there's a .NET here, and there's always a common language runtime, and this common language runtime has some set of rules which are already defined. And there's an FCL, framework class library. It's something like, okay, I have an FCL here which is different from anything. So there is no link which is going on. It's all cut. So common language runtime is different, and your framework class libraries are different. So this is what I'm referring to here. So when you think of all that, it's always there. So it doesn't have rules, but it has set of code, and it is a set of rule here that okay, it has to do like this. And if you think of TDD and BDD, I think probably this is more suitable for the test driven development, because that's how coarse grained the execution is. And if you consider the fastness of this, It's 7x faster than some sort of an frameworks like Node.js, and it's even faster when it's optimized. And on Edge you can deploy, on Linux you can deploy, and so on. So everything is there. So let's just go on with it. So let's just do something like .NET New. Oh, sorry, I didn't do .NET New. So as soon as you did .NET, you had some sort of an option, part to the application, and so on, right? So let's just do this .NET New. So if you think of all these things, so it has some set of all the things that we really want, right? So there is an class library. I think I need to zoom in a little bit. Perfect. I think this font is good, right?
Yeah, this is better.
Yeah. There's a set of class libraries which says, okay, I work in C sharp, F sharp, VB. And there's a console app. Console apps are always related to whatever we are doing on our system. Something like, okay, we have a whiteboard here which is working on VB, not VB, sorry for that, C sharp. So a console app can be in there. So Forms app is always there. You can use it through Xamarin, and you can have any sort of. But if I'd installed much more of an SDKs, probably this would have been even more bigger. But I was not able to download much here. So there's a Blazor service app which is like, okay, whatever you want to do, there is always a C sharp backend which is always there. So it's something like you have an startups are taking on giants. It's something like that's the agility that a software offers today. It's something like most of the code is available. The only thing is we have to configure it somehow, and there are some set of documentations for that. How do we do that? And this is how it is. So being agile and having some set of an already built set of code is actually going to make your life much more easier. And it's set of configurations here and there. That's what I learned about Blazor. It's not that complex, by the way, so don't take it as too much. It's just like your Node.js Django Flask project. Simple as that, but it has its own way of working. That's it. So there is a .NET U console or something. Like you can start off with that. You can just get in. So I did .NET new minus minus list I will do. So you can see that, like, okay, if you can see all these kind of fun stuff which is already being built, you can think of that, okay, all these configuration test units, whatnot, like you already have a set of packages which is always from n unit. Nugget configurations are already being built. So there's always a model view controller which is always there. So what I told about the springboard which has an MVC, it's here. So it's still the same old way of abstractions that goes on. Like, okay, there's a set of language, how can I really get this to work in my system? And of course, if you can think of this ASP.NET Core with an angular version is also there. So Razor Pages is also here. It supports different languages like C sharp, F sharp, VB. I don't know who is using VB, but I don't know who is literally using VB today. I don't know. Sandeep bro, is there anybody who is using
Yeah.
VB today? Like, I don't know, like
So
anybody who.
yeah, so actually VB is a very classical language, very old language. So there are people like who had their legacy code and they are keeping it as it is. So mostly the product-based companies, if you take it as an example, and they have some products which are old products. So they still
Hmm.
need a VB developer still late. So I know a
Oh
couple of
yeah.
friends who are still working in VB, and they are working in some classical product-based companies. And mostly VB currently is used into what template you are shown, like Windows Forms.
Hmm, hmm,
So
hmm, hmm.
those those kind of template projects, Windows Form or within standalone projects, are mostly done into VB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for that, folks, because he wants to take an advanced session in .NET, so I am talking too much. But all of the three of us are the basic ones. So you can think me as a junior prof here. We're just showing off. That's it.
No, it's
I'm
not
not
the
a
case.
pro
I'm
here.
also still learning.
Yeah, that's always there, man. That's always there. So .NET new, let's say AZ Dev India. So, oh, sorry for that. So let's just do console itself. There's new two, something like .NET new.
I think which was your sharing is stopped.
Oh, sorry. I have stopped sharing and I forgot that. Oh, I need to make it full screen like this. Perfect. So this is good. So it's something like here. So we have a .NET new console. Console is coming up. Okay, fine. Now what? So if you think of that directory, I just made it as an empty directory and I started typing in the commands here. But if I do dir here, get all set of new file system that is already being done. So there's a program.cs. So there is always this one cs file which is always there. So if I do code dot, you will see in that code repository, I trust the author of all files and I trust it, so please leave me alone. So it's always saying that, okay, there is an SDK, which is an .NET Framework SDK. All right, so I think I'll just make sure that everything is bloated up. So this is the set of file system that we are talking today, and this is a set of code that we really want to understand, right? It's something like, okay, you have some set of codes. What next? So .NET 6 is the version here, and the output is in the exe, and it's always an implicit using, which is always enabled. Nullable, yes, it's always there. It's always that target framework, which is always hit on. Like you can, if you write a Blazor or a Razor app, it will always be there. So let's just go for this object. And if you think of the program.cs, it still does the same thing. Look, so even if I just do something like .NET help, all right, so not .NRE, it's .NET help. So you get a set of commands which are already there. So there is a build server which is interact with the server started by a build. So it's always there. It's like, how can I optimize my version to the next level? So it's like it's always there. So if I do .NET test, this all project and restore. So let me just make sure that I mess up with this. So if I do that, it still says that. But if I do .NET, shit, no space here. So you can see some set of fixes that is required. It says that, okay, there's an error in this one. There is an expected output from CS proj and so on. So it's very simple. What I just do is I add a semicolon here. I save it. Now I do the .NET run. It's perfect. So there you have it, folks. Hello world program has been run. So if you want to really change it, so hello world from Izzy Dev, India. I don't know. She's from Jaipur. Yeah, like next one we can do Jaipur, and here we have something like, okay, you actually run the hello world from Izzy Dev, India, and that's fine for us. So you can actually do this .NET build command. If you go to the dir now, there's an extra folder which is added called as binary. If you look at something like before one, the same directory that I did right now. So these are some attrib plus h commands. You just get to know there are some hidden files which are already there, but there's binary which was missing here. But it got added. So let's just see what is there in the binaries here. So if I do dir, it comes with a debug folder, and if I do code dot dot here, like I'll just show you how this code dot dot works here. So I hope my C# is here. So yeah, so if you just look at all these things, so it's an exe file which is already being running. So it's the DLL, there's a PDB file. So DLL is basically dynamic link library. So it's something like, what does a DLL do? I would say, like, hey, Sandeep, bro, do you remember that old age Windows 7 where we used to delete all the things in the C folder and we used to be like, what happened to my system? Windows 7 had this one
Yeah.
feature, right? We used to delete everything in the C folder and everything used to be like, what really happened to my system? Exactly 30 minutes later. The DLL was running there and we had deleted most of the DLL there. And the exes were missing and everything was missing. I think Jayashree, I think you are an core Linux worker because she's working on cybersecurity and everything, right? So what's your perspective on all these file systems that you see today?
Basically, in Linux or Unix, we have a whole operating system is treated as a file. So, like we have everything as a file. So it depends if we delete everything, so it will definitely affect all the data and all things.
Yeah, the binary folders. The bin folder is the key here. You
Yeah,
delete one, you'll just lose everything in your life. So
yeah,
that's it. So yeah, essentially the dynamic library is something which is as cool as, okay, you lose everything, so you do everything which is a smoke in your system design and everything. So yeah. So something like, okay, today it's very easy, you have a set of version control and so on, but later on, what do you do when there was a VM era, which was always like, you just make a set of folder, make a set of folder, make a set of folder, version that folder and things like that. So there's an exe. If you just run that same old exe version, so if I just go to cd debug, I think probably this is going to take a lot of time. So let's just leave it to that. But the same old DLL, as soon as I build it, it just gives me the same old .NET run wala command. Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm in the wrong folder, by the way. .NET run. So .NET run is now going to give me Azedev India. So this is what you will even find in the exe file which is running there. So let's just clear off that, and let's just show you. Oh, not all the windows. Sorry for that. So this is what we want from our C# learning. So I just cloned it from the same old repository that I have here. So you guys can clone it. It was done like 2 days before the event. So since it's 100% Jupyter notebook, it's like very easy to even get to know, okay, this is what is happening here and there, and everything is sorted for you guys. So let's just go that. So it's very easy. So let me just clear all my windows here. All right. So save, don't save, doesn't matter. So yeah, I think I need not have to remove my browser because it's running on the browser. So this is the template architecture for your entire C sharp. So this is going to be there. Aldo.NET is something like, okay, database. I think Sandeep Bro can give a little bit more insights on Aldo.NET. Ado.
ADO
Ado.
dot net. ADO
ADO.
dot net. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I'm not a .NET dev, folks.
No, no problem. Okay, so area.net is we can say library or a class library inside a .NET, which we can use for accessing database objects. Currently, like we can suppose we have S2 server database, and there are several objects which we create inside database. Like we create stored procedure, we create triggers, or we have some inline queries or queries dynamically which want to call or access. So this is something we can do with ADO.NET. So ADO.NET we have to import the libraries, use with some like using namespaces. We have to get those libraries and use the classes of those ADO.NET libraries. Like you have to first create a connection to your database, then run the command. So command can be a stored procedure or your inline query that you are going to write like select star from some table, and then you pull the data. So how to pull the data? Like there are several approaches. Like you have connected approach, disconnected approach. Like you want to maintain a live connection and loop over the data or row by row. So data reader is there, or you want to take or fetch data at a time and store it into your some offline objects into your .NET, like say data set, and do some operations on that, and then again post it back to your database.
Hmm.
So this is something stuff that we can do with ADO.NET. Along with ADO.NET now, like there are several other ARM frameworks that maybe I think this is not available in this picture, but you must have heard of Entity framework that Microsoft has bought. Like, it's something like as you was relating to the Java ecosystem, we have I mean Hibernate over there. So some ORM framework like so same we have Entity
Hmm.
framework here or an Hibernate. So this is something a new way to connect to databases.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. It's like you have a Cosmos DB here. You have. I would always say that it's like no SQL doesn't mean that there is no SQL here. There's always an SQL. There is always a JSON which is always being committed, and all databases are vulnerable to one
Yeah.
extent if you don't manage the schema properly and everything and so on.
So if you want to know NoSQL better, you should learn SQL, I'll say, because that will give you a fundamentals of NoSQL, like how to do commit and like create CRUD operations at least you should know.
Yeah, that's always there. So perfect. So let's just go on with this command prompt. So I just cloned that, and very simple. What I did was I just wanted a C sharp folder, and
Which was, can you?
Vishwas, you are not audible.
I think some connection issue on which was side.
Yeah, yeah, he will connect again.
Okay. All right. So we were discussing about the .NET, like Vishwas was taking us through the .NET ecosystem or framework architecture. So similarly, like what we have on Java side, as we have like Spring Boot, MVC templates, or other projects like Hibernate, ORM frameworks. The same thing we have on .NET side also, but .NET has evolved much more. Like we have .NET Core now, so not only .NET framework, so .NET Core. So .NET Core is something which is portable to all environments. Like .NET framework previously was specific to Windows environment, but now with .NET Core you can make it available to across like Linux or even Mac OS and to Windows also. So this is a new thing that the .NET Core has brought with the portable like portability as a feature. So Jayashree, like in this session we'll be covering mostly C sharp stuff, right? The basics of C sharp.
Yeah, yeah.
And what do we have planned for next sessions, in the upcoming sessions after
Some
this session?
advanced version for this. Yeah, we'll have a series for this.
Okay.
Okay, so
So
till Vishwas is joining, let me ask you one thing. Like, if
hmm,
anyone wants to make, like, college students want to make
yeah.
projects on .NET, so like, what could be the best prototype for that? Like, best idea to be developed on .NET, and what all the things we can do with .NET. So you
Yeah.
can give some idea with them.
Yeah, so like what we have planned for our this .NET Hustle thing. Language can be a first thing to learn. Choose like C sharp if they choose. So basic concepts of the language they can learn. And then as we are starting with console application, because we'll be doing some language stuff, C sharp stuff, so we can choose a console application and do the practicing. And then there are several things available like mobile, uh, desktop, web, okay, cloud things is also there now. So based on the interest, that person can pursue the next template which he wants to explore. Like if he wants to go ahead with the web, so maybe he can choose so ASP.NET Core MVC, or so now the Blazor thing has come up. So Blazor he can choose and explore on those things, or he wants to go with the desktop, or say WPF applications are there, or if he wants to go ahead with web applications or say backend side. So now the trend is of full stack applications, right? So we have front end like React or Angular. On backend we have some APIs. So API wise, ASP.NET Core web APIs template is available. So this thing person can explore just to be, if he wants to be a full stack developer or a backend developer. So this is something web APIs that person can explore, and along with that. Yeah, so this is something I think a person can explore as a template or as a technology, and to practice or to get more hands-on. I'll say doing internship is a one way. Like you must be knowing this thing to get a practical exposure or to industry exposure, or they can start doing their own some practical stuff. Like if you find some problem statements, try automating it. try to do the automation of that problem statements. Maybe it can be a say a local vendor that where you want to send an order. So you can just imagine the step and try to automate that. So this real-time problems, if you try to solve that by taking some template which is available under VS Studio, so that will help in learning things.
Okay, that's great. So, like, you have a 15 plus years journey with .NET. So, like, how was your journey? Like, how from where you have started and everything?
Yeah, so I started with the framework 1.1 version of .NET, and that time it was I
I
think Wish was a joined. Yeah, so Wish was, yeah, I was like she asked me about the .NET, my the journey of .NET, like what I did from
yeah,
where I started. So that's what we were talking about. Maybe you can
sure.
start with it.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So yeah, so it's always there. So it's like you have a set of friend, you have a set of playgrounds, and you have a set of boards which are already defined. So what next? So hello world from Easy Dev. So as I told, it's always that casing which is differing here. So console.writeLine, Easy Dev India. So if you just do that, it's a little tough on the computer because it takes a little bit longer time to do that. So how I got to this, it's very simple. It's I have a set of .NET instructions and extensions which are already given there, but I'll also show you .NET Interactive. It's always there. So this is what I installed, and this is for the .NET installation tools, and all these are verified from the Microsoft, and you guys can start working towards it. So let's say Jayashri. So a friend named Jayashri, and I want to really write that thing onto the system here, and everything is written like something like, let's say you want to do exception handling and things like that. So exception handling is an other concept which is already there in the .NET framework, which is already a big concept on its own, and also sometimes when you think of something like as very huge as this entire system, you can actually look at all the things like Sophia, Annabelle, and Jamie, and so on. So everything is something like, okay, something like there's a name and there's an index and how we start working towards it. So this is how the .NET interactive book is. So it's something like it has its own set of rules, it has its own set of variables which are always there. So let me just say I run this also. So it's actually concatenation of the string that I'm doing here. So there's a string here. So there's always an Jayashri which I just added as a friend, and there's always that concatenation that we really want to do. So whatever you did here was supposed to be running here as well. So this is how the concatenation of the string is. It's something like an operator does the job for you. It's something like, okay, you are actually visually enticingly just saying that, okay, this is what my system has to work on, and I just want to see whether this works. So it's something as good as you having some sort of a cheat out there. It's something like, okay, let's say it's Sandeep, Jayashri, and Vishwas, and it comes out to be in that format itself. So if I just connect all the three of us, like let's say we don't give space, and it will be the same thing because it's a computer which is dumb enough to be dumb, and it is always a system which is always there. So if I want to exclude that, it's always there. So if you think of dot append operator, or else in Python there is something called as this. You can really print something, and you can have something like this, and you can write a dot, and there's append, and you can write a. Okay, I can show it to you guys in this one as well. So I can write it as where can I write it? So just new dot any languages. So oh, it's going to take a lot of time for that, so I don't want to crash my system. But this is a set of syntax that we have in already. It's like something like, I think I can show you in a repository. There's something called as GitHub. Why to waste that, when you have that entire thing? So this is for the, what can I say, ambulance detection. I think we did that for that project. Ambulance detection, something like that. OS rename something. I'll just show you that syntax as well, so don't worry about that. So yeah, it was a little hectic. So I think probably, yeah. Oh, sorry for that. So you guys can see the syntax here, right? What I did is there is a plt.image and there is something called as the format dot append and so on. So it's the same old project that we did. It's been a very long time. When did I last commit for this? 2020. Oh, Feb 2nd, 2020. Before the pandemic. I don't know where I was, but yeah, probably in some hackathon. I don't know. Just learning some new stuff. So this is what it is. So it's something like as good as, okay, you have a set of function which already does that, and it does that. So this dollar sign which always going to define, okay, there is something going to be a raw thing which is going to be added, and a set of friends. So let's just do a set of friends and a set of friends here, and notice that it didn't come up. Why? So a set of friends is supposed to be running, but a friend started working here. But let's just see, set and set. So error, a set doesn't
So
exist in the current context. And if you
it
think
was,
of
yeah.
data, yeah,
So I was saying the same. Maybe you have some declarations on top
yeah, I think probably
for that variable. Yeah, where? Oh, yeah.
variable, but it should not affect it. But consent
No, you
dot
have
write.
that defined on.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
okay, okay. Console dot write. Oh, so it's a variable. So set friends. So let's just do the set friends here. Probably if it works, that's good. So it worked. So yeah, he is the perfect .NET dev here, not me. So yeah, it's always there. So it's the playground. I didn't define any variable here, but it started working. So I can write Vishwas. So it's here. So it started working. So anything that you think of, any sort of an declaration, it's always there. So Maria, Sophia was already there. So what is it all about? So it's something like, okay, you have a set of code here and it's always working. So yeah, he was at a perfect .NET dev. So I think we can write something as, okay, since there was an a friend which was already defined, we can do that. So let's just do a friend here. So the see that there is always a memory which is already saying that, okay, there was an a friend variable which was already there. So if I write a friend, I think this has autocomplete. No, a friend came up. So it came out as Jayashree. And if you say set, okay, either set friends, yeah, set friends. Okay, I just copy that. Wait to wait for the autocomplete to come up. So if I do that, it's still saying Jayashree. I don't. But if I do a set friend here, I think probably this might change. Probably, but it should not give me Jayashree now. So it now got appended with Vishwas. So it's always there. Sandeep, Jayashree, and Vishwas. So it's always there. How do you take something out from the memory? How do you start working towards this is working or that is working? So it's always there. So there is always a Maria and Sophia's thing, which is always there, like something like first friend and second friend. Something like we can say AZDev and India MSFT, let it be India. So it's something like a friend are AZDev and India. Something like AZDev community is friending with India. You can add something like Vishwas and Sandeep. It's always there. It's always that one understanding that is always required that, okay, there is a set of variables and how can we add it? So this dollar symbol is just going to define that as a raw variable, and there's going to be a raw instance, something like, hey, there's something defined in the close brackets, so just print it down like that. I can even remove that, and you can think of it something like my first friend and the second friend has been removed already. It's because of I've not defined that, hey, compiler or the interpreter which is already working here, there is something going to be raw which is going to be taken from the memory, and this is what it was. And if you see all the execution, even if I execute this entire thing for a course of time, this comes up. So as Jayashree said, there is always an Boolean stuff which will always be added, like something like there was a release, and you are saying to the compiler that, hey, is there something called as goodbye in the same old string that we are talking about? So it's something like I can also say I can declare this entire thing as a variable. Let's see that, but it will not work. So val str a or something. So expect, oh, there is always an semicolon which is expected. So identifier expected, and there is always an expected. Oh, sorry for my semicolon stuff. It's been a very long time since I put any semicolon because I was doing a lot of Python. So this doesn't work. Yeah, Sandeep bro, you had something to say?
Yeah, the string, I think you missed data type because from Python, you, yeah,
String.
string. Yeah, it should work now.
So it
Yeah.
now it's saying that, okay, there is always an thing here. So if you say what is happening with the hey here, there's always this one thing which is already written. So something like you're already defining it and saying that my friend are Vishwas and we are friends. Okay, let me just append this. We are friends. Something like Sandeep and this has to vanish. If it vanishes, it's a .NET interactive book. We are friends, Vishwas and Sandeep. So this is what it is. So you can always define something as raw through a dollar symbol here, and now within that curly braces, you just have the way in which they call this as flower brackets. I don't know what kind of flower this is, but this is a curly bracket, by the way. So this is what math teacher taught me, curly brackets. I think BODMAS, yeah, I think we all did that. So it's always there, it's always okay. So there is always that right line wala command, and even then print line, so on. So there is something called as pretty prints, which is always there in Python. And even if you think of something as good as a compiler which does all the things very true here, I think probably it's something like all the languages have the same set of logics here: print line, pretty print, everything. But how do you write it? That's all belongs to you. So if first friend has 7 letters, seventh friend has, I hope we don't have VISHWS. Oh, we both have same set of numbers here. So let's just say I had something called as Jayashree. Jayashree. So she's a pretty longer one. So I think, yes, we are friends. Oh, Jayashree is 9 letter word. So there's always this one way in which it's all dynamic. It's something like, okay, if I change something there, I have to change it all over. Since I'm not using something called as a script, it's always stored in memory as an interpreter only. So if I do the script while execution, everything will run as in compiled code, and everything will be appearing as one line after the other. So it's always there. So yeah, it's still the same thing. It's always like, okay, you have some set of spacings done, and how is this set of spacing going to work? And you have everything, and compiling it over here, probably let me just say Vishwas hello world, and it's going to say Vishwas hello world with a set of spaces. If I just increase the space also, the space is going to increase, and it's still going to have its own set of spaces defined here. So it's always that one way, like you just know that, okay, between these brackets and these brackets there has to be something defined. So what is that definition that I want to give? So there is always that double quotes. I don't think so anything is as good as this, like something like if there is a set of length here, I think probably we can look at that as well. So console dot write line, we can do that. Greetings dot length. Wait, we can do this. Okay, sorry, not for that. Something as good as this. So it's 10. Okay, perfect. This is cool. So there's 45 entities which are there behind this hits. Like I can even shift that as well. So there is always this 44th one which will be always added. Like something like I just give two spaces here. Spaces are entities here. Like spaces have their own way of working here. And you really need not have to do everything from scratch. Everything has been already optimized for you and everything is already available for you. So I think everything still remains the same. I think we pretty much covered everything. I think, yeah, it's always that. And let's say hello Vishwas and goodbye. And goodbye Vishwas. I don't think so. It will say goodbye Vishwas, but I can say, I say hello Vishwas. It's going to say true. Yes, it's always there. It always parses through the arguments, and you can actually add a space here. Let's say I just had two spaces here and I had a space here, but it's still taking the two spaces have been neglected. And even though there is a space here and it's saying, okay, there's three spaces. Let me just see how it is. So I had a two spaces here, but I added three spaces here and it's taking all the spaces and entity itself. So space has its own memory allocated. So apparently, I wish you guys know what is an variable and entity is all about. So some math operation is always there. So addition, it's still the plus symbol which is always working. So 18 plus 6. So let me just do 180 plus 6. It's 186 and so on. And if you just think of all these kinds of code which are already available, it's always there. It's always that BODMAS rule which works here. So it's like wait, where is that? A is 50. Let's just bloat the numbers up with one decimal points. And let's see, 850. God, it's A plus B, which is 90. Actually, it should not be 90, but brackets off is something of a multiplication. Division was supposed to be first. Let's say whether something like this might work, or else I don't know. So it's something like A by B into 20. I don't know, like it really left out the decimal places, but to me, I think so. A is 40 and B is 50. So let's just see how the calculator gives me the answers actually. So let me just see 50 by 40 into 20. It's almost 20, but I think it really neglected the decimal points here. But I can do this. And this is the reminder which we get. And what is that reminder? It's always that 10. 41 is always there, that the reminder will be 10, and that 20 is being multiplied. So now it's 200. So this percentage symbol is just going to give you that reminder, and in all the languages, it still remains the same. So it's always there. It just neglected the decimal value and it started working. So let me just say 50.0.
No,
Yeah,
you can add a float over there, Vishwas, in D
yeah,
as a data
float,
type.
float. Yeah,
Yeah.
since it was an int, yeah, you can add float and you can start working with that. And that's what float. Float only, right?
Yeah, float or double as per precision.
As per the precision, yeah. Like we can do that double also. So it's int now. So what we can do is we'll do float for all the things. So let me just copy this. So we can do this and we can do float, float, float for everything. I'll let it be int. You can see how the abstractions go on and things like that. I hope this is not wrong. Literal type double. Double can't be implicitly converted into float. Perfect. Let's just go float itself. Like int, double, so on. Oh, so float is here. I hope I didn't do anything there wrong. Oh, float A. Perfect. So let's see what is happening here. So just comment this out and let's see what is happening. So it came out as 25. So let's say 1.25 into 20 is 25. That's what I believe. No. Arre, why did I do multi division? 1.25 into 20 is 25. So perfect. So what we got is 25 here. So I think probably we are on the rightest spot. I think let's just see how the abstraction works fine here. So if I do int, probably it's not taking, it's saying that error, implicitly convert float to int. An explicit conversion exists. Are you missing the typecasting? So typecasting is always there. So if I do float here, it will say 25 and so on. So you can really do that. You can really typecast any values and so on. So it's always there. So it's always that int a plus b. So now since I've added this as an, oh sorry, I need to run this before that. So let's see whether the float b works here. I know that into float can't be taken, but let's see how this works. So it's now even just saying that okay, every variable is int. So now let's just go on with the int design. So it's always there, right? It's always that higher order abstraction which goes upon. Like something like int can be converted to float. Float can't be converted into int. Something as good as that. So right now we have this. I think probably since I've run this right now, this will not be in anything here. So what we did here was 50 plus 40 is 90. 90 into 2 is 180. 180 into 10 is 1800. So that's what we got here. So we implicitly said that, oh, sorry, we explicitly said that first do the addition, which is there in brackets, then go for the multiplication. So simple BODMAS rule. So always there. So we all have that one way of committing all the branches, this, that, and so on. So it's very simple. If conditions have to be satisfied and then you have to go for that condition. So the conditions here is saying that okay, what if a plus b is greater than 10? The right answer is greater than 10.0. Something like you can say something like a minus b, oh sorry, a minus b greater than 10, it's didn't give out any result. So you can always write an else statement. You can always write something like an else part which is always there and you can start working. So it's not greater than 10 came up. So this is how you improvise on everything. So something like there's a condition plus the outcome and there is always that boolean expression, and what is that outcome. So there was a boolean expression which was given here. So let's see whether if the int works here, but I know that there is going to be an error because this is a boolean expression, this is not an int expression. So it's always that higher order conversion which will always be converting towards. And I think boolean is always that one glitch. It's something like true and the false. What is it, true and the false? Was the floating point operation not enough? When you read a book called as Clean Code, you will really understand why are we talking about all these aspects and so on. So I think everything that we talked here is always there. So since we already gave 50 plus 60, so now it's actually equal to 10. Like 50 minus 60 is basically minus 10. So if you do console dot cancel key, no, dot beep, something like, oh, it was expected. So there is a beep sound which comes to me. So I heard it. I think, did you guys hear it? The beep sound?
Yeah, we heard.
Yeah, like let me just write it 10 times. Like probably you guys can hear it. So yeah, I think this is good. Yeah, I think this is fun to play with. Okay, So let's just not do that. And yeah, this is how it is. So all the functions, like, of course, this is also there in C. C also has its own function. So we have to check what is there, because I think C version can also be run on in notebooks like this. So you guys can run that. I think probably we'll also go on with the other branches and types. So the similar way in which you write in C is still the same one here. Loop still remains the same. While loop, do while loop, for loop still has their own way of syntaxes, but the way in which you are writing the conditions, they start differing. So while everything is less, so it started from 0 to 1, because counter has to start from 0. Let me just say 0.1, and it will always be like 1. So, oh, sorry, I didn't do 0.1. I did. Oh, why is it not coming 0.1? All right. So we started off with that. And, all right. So let me just start with a 0.1, and it's always saying that there is an exception for that. So cannot implicitly convert double into int. So let's just go on with the double itself. So double. So it was like 0.1, 1.1, 2.1, 3.1, 4.1, 5.1, 6.1, 8.1. So at the end, what we thought was, okay, just start with some entity and just end off with it. So everything here became its own entity. So if you count it, 3, 6, 8, 9. So less than 10 is what we did, and let's just do less than or equal to 10. So it went till 10 entities and it gave us this. So I know C sharp basics is a little boring to any person to listen to right now, but it all has its own way of learning. So if you want to really learn what this entire thing was all about, so just go to all the videos that is there. It's a pretty long one, and you guys have to just learn it. And this is always there, this is always there for you two guys to learn and check out what is this module all about and everything. So it's always there. So Sophia, Anna, Jamie, Bill. So if you think of all these C sharp documentation, may all the code is available for you guys, and you guys can go check out and link. Like, if instead of seeing through an hefty amount of documentation, we have compiled it here, so you guys can see everything here. Scott not found. So let's say I do AZDev. So in this session, we are three. Jayashri, I'm very sorry if your name is written wrong here, Jayashri. Let's say Sandeep, the prof. The prof. I write him as the prof. And let me just say, hey, compiler, just go back and say what is AZDev India doing? But it will say it doesn't exist. So if I say now AZDev space, let's see what happens here. AZDev space was not found. So space also is a very crucial part here. So AZDev is found at zeroth entity here. So AZDev is found here and so on. So what next? So there is always that name here which will say that, okay, if you have found it, just say which is the index and what is that. And if it's not, if it's actually found, it's always there. So it's always there for me. So if I do the space, it doesn't find. If I don't do the space, found at the zeroth entity, and it comes up here, and so on. So it still remains the same. All the codes still remains the same. You just can write as many good amount of code here, and you can really get to know, okay, this is what we are doing. So think about that. So arrays are simple entities which have their own lists, and they are all a collection of entire set of data sets. Something like there can be string inside, there can be int inside, bool, anything can be written here. So let me just say, let's say Vishwas question mark, and just look at that. I just added an typo there, and it started working. So Vishwas was a question mark. So where are you, Vishwas? So let's say it's always there. So it's always that one way of learning. Okay, this is what is working here. Next is what. Next is what. To upper, of course, we are just doing the conversion of all the cases and things like that. Save all. So Felipe is some Mexican guy. So let's just add Vishwas here. So Shri. I hope Gayatri is here. Like, guys, are you here?
Yeah, we're there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I was like, where are all the people like
Vishwas, you are not audible.
I think some network connection. Vishwas, can you hear us?
Meanwhile, we
So,
can go ahead
yeah.
with our
So,
question. Yeah,
yeah, so
your journey.
.NET framework, yeah. So it was a 1.1 version that I was working on, and it was Windows Forms application. So it was a product for one email application login system. So where it was an interesting product where, like, suppose you're typing something, it's a parenting application, parent monitoring application for your kids. Like countries like nowadays we have such application in India also, but in countries like US or other countries like other than India, where you have some monitoring system for your kids, like when you go out for a job and you install the software onto your system, and you can monitor like what your kids are typing, or if they're typing some other adult words or something, like that will get highlighted and it will be sent to users. So those kind of applications I worked initially. Yeah, Vishwas is back. I think Vishwas, you can
yeah,
start sharing.
sure, sure. Yeah, I'll start sharing now. Yeah. I don't know what happens to my computer when I edit a lot of videos. Today I got some time, so I edited some videos. So that was the issue with my system. So yeah, that's what I was talking about, right? You can really go back and learn what is done through all your C sharp entity with IPYNB notebook, as well as your uh, what you can say, this DIB .NET Interactive Book. So DIB stands for .NET Interactive Book, and it's taking pretty long time because it's now taking an interpreter initially right now. So if you think of all these .NET Interactive, where is it coming and what is it all about? So you can still write all the commands which are there in the basics as well. So you can go here, copy that, uh, where is the new one? So code is here, so perfect. So I do that, it still runs the same way. So since it was initially running it, so it took a long time. So even if you just go to the new code slide here, not the slide, you can call it as a slide here, but always that one way of okay, this is what it is. So which was Jayashri, Sandeep, and easy dev. So it took a pretty long time to always say, and it say it's not there. So let's say Jayashri is here. So Jayashri is found at 1. So Vishwas would be 0. The position of my entire list that I'm talking about will be 0. And 1 is Jayashri, 2 is Sandeep, 3 is AZDev. So if I do AZDev, okay, sorry for that. So it's 3. So apparently, this is how your C sharp notebook works there. So .NET Interactive works really fine on anything. So if you think of all the things, so it's always there. So F sharp interactive, HTML interactive. So we'll actually go for that as well. So if you look at the ML .NET demo, it's just a simple demo. Don't worry about that. to be very frank, the training takes a literal long time. So we were like, okay, fine, let's just not waste your time also. And okay, so I didn't hit the wrong one. So it's a polyglot kind of an approach. So it's like any language can be inserted in any given point. So .NET Interactive gives you this. So it got to know that there was an F sharp interactive, and it really bought an F sharp console here, and it started working. So wait, where is that? So hello, C sharp, hello. Okay. Got that. So I think there was an error here. Type check, correct. Hello is not defined. Something as good as this. Hello word. Something is missing.
Is it a comment? Like, is this a F sharp syntax you're writing?
Yeah, sure.
No, hyphen hyphen from.
Yeah. Are you are muted, bro?
No, I was asking. Like, I asked a question.
No. This was actually working only. If you see the
Okay.
.NET book there, I think is that I think it was actually working there, but I don't know what happened. But that's fine. That's cool. I think this was not supposed to type check value construction error. Okay, folks, I think it's there in the notebook, but I don't know why it's not working. So let's just delete one variable. What should I lose? So the world is there, the world is already created. So actually it was supposed to work. So C sharp is equals to Vishwas. I think hello should actually work here. Let's say Vishwas something. So it doesn't work. So share from it doesn't work like that. So let's just not worry about it. So what is working? Let's just do that. So which world of Vishwas. So it's always there. So it's like F sharp. I do know F sharp. Don't worry about that. It's like I just wanted to show you. Okay, this is how it works here. So what to do next? So the classes, of course, it really understood that there is a C sharp here, the code is C sharp here, and it started working. So now if you just type in something as an user, so this will be a JSON input that is always there. So there's always a JSON 2, which is always not 2. Kamala, not the number 2, 2. It's always there with it as well. So there's always a JSON kind of an input, which can also be defined and so on. So let's just say Sandeep. I think it's going to take a pretty longer time because Sandeep, Vishwas. Since Sandeep was already there, Vishwas was appended and it was just that one entity. So let me just say ID is 1, 2, 3, and let me just say Shri. And since it's always knew that okay, there is always an users which is always defined, and you can actually call all these users with these values itself. So there's always that name version, so on. So let's just do that. If you can also do something like this, you can also do something like this. So this is what we are now looking at. So use this demo. So if I do now, it's now going to call all the IDs and it's going to say Vishwas, Sandeep, and Jayashri. And it's always there. It's always that one way in which you can call all these. You can always call it because there is always an ID value which is always fixed, a JSON kind of an input, and a JSON kind of an output. So when ADO.NET, when he talked about, it's all about the schema. It's all about that. How do you manage all the data sets? So it's always there for you to understand. Okay, this is what is happening. So it's a simple way. It just says, okay, this is what C sharp code looks like, JavaScript, and so on. So this is how it is, and that command is always there. So you can copy from the notebook as well. And if you think of Nugget packages, r.nugget.ml.frameworks was already added. If you think of something like TensorFlow.net Nugget package. So there is a different form factors for it as well. So if you go to the Python, there is always a wheel and there's a pip package manager. So for Nugget, is for the .NET. And so there is always an install package .NET version. So it's a version that we are just doing. So .NET add packages. So if I just go to my command prompt and I say .NET add, so it says that okay, there is an Vishwas here. So add nugget packages reference to the project. So it's always like you have to just go there, add to the project, where is the package name and what is it all about. So it's always there for that. And you know, if you want to make a package reference here, it's always there. Package CLI is always there. Script, this is what we did. The script one is what we did, and I'll just show you how to install it as well. So even it works good in your .NET notebooks. So it's here. So if I do this, it will now get installed. So TensorFlow.NET is already there. And see the beauty of this entire thing, like it's now downloading everything, right? So now if I just do this, it still gets downloaded and so on. So it's always there, it's that one way that you can really have an interactive version of all the things. So I don't know what is this cake. I think Sandeep can give a little bit of insights about what is this cake all about and things like that. So
Yeah,
Sandeep
so
bro.
I think Cake is a framework like we have .NET. The same way for Cake, we how we can reference that and add it into our .NET project. So that's what we are doing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much, bro. I think yeah, it got installed here. I think I did it here. So yeah, it's installed package here. So perfect. It really worked good. And so on. So if you think of all the abstractions that we did, all the things that we learned above, it's all being used in this project here. So I too took the reference of the ML.NET documentation and the train.csv file is here. This is for the bank data set. I'll show you where is this Kaggle bank data set as well. So if you guys can go Kaggle banking data set. Yes, this is what I was talking about. This is the marketing target that I took, and the train.csv is what I downloaded. Test.csv was too hefty for me to even down learn it because I just put the parameters directly. Like if you can see here, I just put the parameters here and it gave me true and the false wala thing because that's how the data set is also. Like it should give me a .NET viewer. Where is it? CSV viewer is not coming. So unknown, yes, true, false. So this is what the abstraction was. And Boston housing data set is what I downloaded and I used for the another project here. So don't worry, it's a very complex thing. If you just go on with it, it will just take another session of an hour or so. So that's it, folks. We end the session right now here. So thank you. I think sorry for taking a little bit over, not little bit, too much over time. But that's the requirement to cover all the syllabus that we really designed for this series.
But indeed, it was a great session. We got to learn so many things.
Actually, I got to debug a lot of things because I am a newbie to the .NET and I don't know much here. So Sandeep bro was there, and I think thank you so much, bro, for debugging in many of the places that I really wanted to learn. So yeah,
Thanks, Vishwa. Even I
Yeah,
am new to the interactive, .NET interactive. The one that is
yeah,
on notebooks. Yeah.
yeah, notebooks,
Maybe we
yeah.
can have session on that also someday.
No, it's a simple installation. That's it. No,
But
no,
it has
no.
so many features.
Yeah, it has so many features
yeah.
to just unveil. Like probably at 10 minutes next session, we can just go on exclusively for what is there in the .NET interactive book. Like I too need to learn, so yeah, we can do that. So no problem for that. So yeah, thank you so much, folks. Thank you all, and thank you, Jayashree, for being the HOD of the series. Don't worry, even in college also we have HODs who doesn't know many subjects, but they are HODs, right? So don't worry about that. So the .NET Prof is here. So next sessions will be taken from the .NET Prof, and of course Jayashree will be the HOD. She has to redeem that she's an HOD, and she'll take the session. So thank you so much, folks.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Vishwas.
Yeah, we'll end the broadcast now.